In project management, one of the most important aspects we need to address is risk. Risk refers to any uncertainty that can have a positive or negative impact on the project's objectives. Understanding risk is not about avoiding challenges but about preparing for them, analyzing their potential impact, and creating strategies to minimize threats while also taking advantage of opportunities. Effective risk management ensures smoother project execution, better decision-making, and higher chances of success. The definition of risk in project management is very clear. It is any uncertain event or condition that, if it occurs, can impact one or more of a project's objectives either positively or negatively. This means risk isn't always something bad, it can also bring opportunities. For example, a sudden technological advancement might speed up project delivery, while a delay in resource availability could slow it down. The key is to identify and evaluate these uncertainties early so we can plan how to respond effectively. This slide explains the concept of positive risk with a practical example. In this case, a gas pipeline expansion project in Canada has its funds allocated in US dollars, while most expenses are in Canadian dollars. Currency fluctuations are usually seen as a risk to the project budget, but here the Canadian dollar depreciates after the project begins. This depreciation actually works in favor of the project, leading to a budget surplus. So, we can see that not all risks are harmful. Sometimes they bring unexpected benefits, which is why we call them positive risks. The concept of negative risk, which refers to an uncertain event that can have a harmful impact on the project. For example, if a major storm delays the construction of a commercial office tower, then the project timeline will also be delayed. Such risks highlight the importance of planning ahead and having strategies in place to minimize their impact. Risk management is all about identifying, evaluating, and planning how to respond to uncertainties, whether positive or negative, that may arise during a project. It's important to understand that risks exist at two levels. The first is individual project risk, which is linked to a specific event or condition that may impact one or more objectives. The second is overall project risk, which looks at the combined effect of all uncertainties across the project and how they might influence stakeholders and outcomes. Together, these two levels help us see both the small picture and the big picture of project risks. In project management, risks can be categorized in many ways, and one important classification is between external risks and technical risks. External risks come from factors outside the project team's control, such as changes in government regulations, supplier or subcontractor issues, or even environmental conditions. On the other hand, technical risks arise from within the project itself, like challenges in meeting requirements, limitations in technology, or issues with quality. Understanding this difference helps us prepare better strategies for managing each type of risk. When we talk about risk categorization, it refers to classifying risks into different types so that they can be understood and managed more effectively. Internal risks are those that originate within the project itself, such as problems with funding, lack of resources, or prioritization issues, which directly affect the execution of the project. On the other hand, project management risks arise from the way the project is planned and managed, including inaccurate estimation, poor planning, unrealistic schedules, or gaps in communication. Understanding and managing both these categories of risks is essential for ensuring successful project delivery. Plan risk management is essentially about deciding how risk management will be carried out for a project. It involves setting up a structured approach to ensure that risks are identified, analyzed, and addressed in proportion to their impact and importance. The main benefit of this process is that it aligns the level of risk management with both the potential risks and the significance of the project to the organization and its stakeholders. Since it is part of the planning process group, it helps to prepare the project team with a clear strategy to handle uncertainties right from the beginning. This slide explains how the plan risk management process works. It starts with several inputs such as the project charter, project management plan, organizational process assets, project documents, and enterprise environmental factors. These inputs are analyzed through techniques like communication, requirements analysis, data analysis, and meetings to create an effective strategy. The main output of this process is the risk management plan, which acts as a guide for identifying, assessing, and responding to risks throughout the project life cycle. Risk calculation is about measuring risks in a quantitative way so they can be managed effectively. Risks are usually measured by assigning a monetary value and are calculated by multiplying the probability of occurrence with the potential impact. This gives us risk exposure, which tells us how significant a risk really is. Risk probability refers to the chance that a particular risk event may happen, while risk impact refers to the effect it would have on project objectives if it does happen. By using this calculation, project teams can prioritize which risks need more attention and resources. The calculation of risk using the expected monetary value method. Each work package has a probability and a financial impact, and by multiplying them we get the EMV. For example, work package X with a 25% probability of a $10,000 loss results in $2,500. Work package Y with 40% probability of a $2,000 loss results in $800, and work package Z with 10% probability of a $20,000 gain gives plus $2,000. When we combine all these, the total EMV comes to $1,300, which means overall the project faces an expected loss. This approach helps in risk analysis and better project decision-making. The concept of the probability and impact matrix, which is a useful tool in risk management. It helps in plotting risks based on how likely they are to occur and how significant their impact could be. By doing this, risks can be sorted and prioritized, making it easier for project managers to identify which risks need more detailed quantitative analysis and which ones can be managed with simple strategies. Essentially, it provides a clear visual representation to support better decision-making. A detailed probability and impact matrix that categorizes risks into threats and opportunities based on their likelihood and potential impact. The values in the table are obtained by multiplying probability with impact, which helps us understand the overall risk exposure. High probability combined with high impact results in the most critical risks, while low probability and low impact fall into a less concerning category. This matrix acts as a guide for project managers to prioritize their focus, ensuring that high threats are mitigated effectively and high opportunities are leveraged to benefit the project. That performing quantitative risk analysis means using numerical techniques to analyze the combined effect of identified risks and uncertainties on overall project objectives. It goes beyond simply listing risks by measuring their potential impact in numbers, which helps in making more informed and data-driven decisions. Since this process is part of the planning process group, it ensures that risks are evaluated early and mitigation strategies are based on solid analysis rather than assumptions. The process of performing quantitative risk analysis in a structured way. It shows the key inputs such as the project management plan, organizational assets, project documents, and environmental factors, which provide the basis for analysis. The techniques applied include expert judgment, data gathering, data analysis, representation of uncertainty, and the use of interpersonal skills to interpret results. The outcome of this process is updates to project documents, ensuring that risk information is accurate and actionable. Essentially, it connects inputs, tools, and outputs to strengthen risk management in projects. The process of performing quantitative risk analysis in a structured way. It shows the key inputs such as the project management plan, organizational assets, project documents, and environmental factors, which provide the basis for analysis. The techniques applied include expert judgment, data gathering, data analysis, representation of uncertainty, and the use of interpersonal skills to interpret results. The outcome of this process is updates to project documents, ensuring that risk information is accurate and actionable. Essentially, it connects inputs, tools, and outputs to strengthen risk management in projects. When we assess risks, two important parameters are manageability and controllability, and strategic impact. Manageability and controllability tell us how difficult it would be to handle a risk if it happens. This helps us plan ahead and decide how much effort or resources we may need. Strategic impact is about understanding how much that risk could affect our organization's big picture goals and direction. If a risk has a high strategic impact, it means it could potentially disrupt key objectives, so it needs more attention and stronger mitigation plans. Sensitivity analysis helps us understand which risks have the most significant impact on our project or organization. By using this technique, we can analyze and compare different risks to see which ones matter most. This way, we can prioritize our attention and resources toward the risks that could cause the biggest effect. Often, a tornado diagram is used to visually show these comparisons, making it easier for everyone to see which risks are most critical. In sensitivity analysis, risks are usually represented by horizontal bars. The longest bar at the top shows the risk that has the highest impact or priority. As we move down, the bars get shorter, which means those risks are less critical compared to the ones above. This visual ranking helps teams quickly see which risks need immediate attention and which ones can be handled later. It makes the decision-making process much clearer and more structured. Once we perform a quantitative risk analysis, we calculate EMV, or expected monetary value, for each identified risk. These EMV values are then added together to determine the total contingency reserve. This reserve acts as a financial buffer that helps us prepare for potential risks that may actually occur during the project. In simple terms, it is like setting aside money just in case certain risks become reality, so the project can continue smoothly without unexpected financial stress. Expected monetary value, or EMV, is a very useful tool for risk management. It helps us put a number to each risk by multiplying the probability of the risk happening with its potential impact in terms of cost. For example, if there is a 65% chance that a risk will cost $40,000, the EMV would be $26,000. This gives us a clear financial representation of the risk. Once we calculate EMV for all identified risks, we sum them up to determine the total contingency reserve, which acts as a safety net for the project. A decision tree is a very powerful tool for making choices when there are uncertainties involved. It helps us visually map out different possible decisions, the risks associated with each decision, and their financial impacts. For example, in this case, we are trying to decide whether to buy a new car or a used car. For the new car, we calculate the probability of failure, which is only 10%, but if it fails, the impact is $15,000. The cost of buying the new car is $20,000. On the other hand, the used car has a lower initial cost of $15,000, but it comes with a higher probability of failure minus 70%, and if that failure happens, the impact is $10,000. By calculating expected monetary values for both options, we can make a more informed decision about which choice carries the least financial risk over a 5-year period. The definition of the impact scale by showing how different levels of impact affect project objectives like scope, cost, time, and quality. At the very low level, the changes are almost unnoticeable, whether it's a slight adjustment in scope, insignificant cost increase, no change in schedule, or barely noticeable quality degradation. As we move to low impact, minor areas of scope are affected, cost may increase up to 10%, schedule impact is less than 5%, and only a few quality parameters are affected. At the moderate level, some important areas of scope are affected. Cost increases by 10 to 20%, schedule may shift by 5 to 10%, and sponsor approval is required for quality issues. When the impact is high, the scope faces unacceptable changes, costs increase by 20 to 40%, schedules slip by 10 to 20%, and quality compromises become significant. Finally, at the very high level, the entire scope may be rendered useless, cost increases beyond 40%, schedules slip by more than 20%, and quality issues are so severe that the project may even need to be scrapped. The concept of plan risk response, which is a part of the planning process group. It is about identifying the right strategies to deal with project risks once they have been analyzed. We start with inputs such as the project management plan, organizational process assets, project documents, and environmental factors. These inputs are processed using tools and techniques like expert judgment, data gathering and analysis, interpersonal skills, and different strategies for threats and opportunities. The idea is to create a clear plan of action, whether it is contingent strategies, strategies for overall risk, or specific decision-making approaches. Finally, the outputs include change requests, updates to the project management plan, and updates to project documents. In simple terms, this process ensures that we are not just identifying risks, but also actively planning how to handle them so the project remains on track. This slide explains how a backlog works in an agile environment when risk is considered. Normally, a backlog is prioritized based on features and their value. But in a risk-adjusted backlog, the prioritization also includes risk responses, meaning the actions planned for identified risks. This ensures that while delivering features, the team also proactively addresses the risks that could impact the project. During each iteration, Agile teams try to balance two things: delivering the highest value features for the customer and at the same time reducing or mitigating the most significant risks that remain in the project. This approach helps the team not only deliver value but also build resilience into the project. The Project Management Office manages features and risks together. On the left, we have business features and their associated risk responses. From this list, selected features are taken forward into development. These features are then decomposed into stories, which are developed, demonstrated, and presented as working increments of functionality. The cycle shown in the middle represents the Agile approach: planning, executing, evaluating, and then iterating again. Through this process, teams not only deliver new functionality but also incorporate risk responses, collect business feedback, and conduct retrospectives to improve continuously.